Namaskar, Pranam. Today, this is the first video in the GST related YouTube channel. And in this video, I intend to discuss the placement of various sections in CGST Act, in IGST Act, and how they are linked and how government achieves or the lawmakers, how they have framed this particular law to achieve a particular objective of revenue collection. Okay. So today's video, more of it will be centered on the way the law has to be read, the way it has to be understood, and we will not be discussing certainly the details of all the sections, but how the flow of concept is in GST Act. So in GST Act, as you all might be aware, CGST Act 2017 is one, IGST Act, Integrated GST Act 2017 is another, State GST Act. Each state has its own GST Act, which is exactly a replica of CGST Act 2017. Even the notifications issued by them are same to same. UTGST Act is there. So last is the Compensation Cess Act 2017. Now these all being there, the most important are the two acts, which is CGST Act 2017, because UTGST as well as SGST are same. Secondly, what is important is the IGST Act. Now, Compensation Cess Act comes into picture only for the compensation related matter, means compensation was for the loss of revenue if at all states, the whole thing of 2017. If states do not get the expected revenue with a growth of 14%, if I recollect. So there was a compensation which center had assured that they will pay state. So these acts we will not be discussing, but CGST Act 2017, if I can say, is a mother act for GST, and IGST is the one which is very focused act on certain transactions. So first and foremost, 174 sections, 20 chapters, CGST Act. Okay. Now, among these 20 chapters, the placement is such that there is first and foremost section 7, which is the scope of supply. Sorry, I should come to section 2. Section 2 is the definition section. Now, these are about 120 definitions. Now, my way of looking is that I do not at the onset read all the definitions, but you have to proceed ahead, and as and where you come across a term, you have to go back to definition section. Okay, like when you go to input tax credit in section 16, what is input tax? That is defined in definitions. So you have to look what is input tax as defined there. So when you go to section 31, you will see tax invoice. What is tax invoice is again defined in section 2. So section 2 is the one which is definition. Section 2 being a definition section has only clauses as for all laws. Okay. Next, coming to chapter 3, levy and collection of tax. Section 7, we spoke, it is scope of supply. But section 7 also has 3 schedules. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Schedule 1 is whether even if there is an activity which has been done without any consideration, even then it will be considered as supply. That is Schedule 1. There is a list given there. Schedule 2 is classification of goods and services. So is certain activities which are clearly classified as services. For example, works contracts. It has been put as services. Or now in the earlier regime, there were huge litigations in this. So many writ petitions filed, so many judgments, some contradictory, some in favor. But with this, they have put to rest that Schedule 2 says something is a service, means it is service. Okay. Schedule 3, it speaks of activities, whether supply of good or whether activities which are, sorry, I should say neither supply of goods nor they are supply of services. Okay. So these are the ones which will never be considered as neither supply of goods nor supply of services. So they are out of the scope of GST in a way. Now, section 10 is a composition section. Now, section 10 is it's having term of an aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover again has to be referred into definition section. Okay. For simple understanding sake, It is the entire turnover, including uh, various exports, etc. also. But that apart, now in section 10, the composition levy is for small businessmen and it is a fixed amount that is charged. So here in this particular chapter, if I say chapter 3, levy and collection, on supply there will be a levy. Section 8 speaks about section 9 speaks about levy and collection, and levy and collection, their definition appears what is intrastate. That appears in section 9, and on intrastate there is CGST. Okay. That applicability is spoken in section 9. Section 10, as I spoke, is for composition, where no tax invoice can be issued. There can be no input tax credit taken by that particular business. Okay, but they can pay a fixed amount at a fixed percentage. And this is for simplicity that the government intends to have this section for small businesses to get out of the compliance related various complexities. Now, after this is time and value of supply. So section 12 to section 15. Okay. Section 12 speaks about time and supply of goods. Section 13 speaks about time and supply of services. Section 13, subsection 2, specifically is for time of supply of service. And here, this will be the earliest of the three, that particular provision, whether service is provided, whether amount is received, or whether invoice is raised, whichever is earlier. That appears in this particular section. So if you can see how there is a interconnection, levy, what is supply, when it will be levied is given in time of supply, but what will be the levy attracted on is given in section 7, section 8. Okay. Next is input tax credit. Sorry, I missed value of supply. Value of supply is in section 15, that is for valuation. So first is what will attract GST. Supply will attract GST. If intrastate, it will attract CGST, SGST. Okay, those concepts come. Next is when, if it is goods, section 12. If it is service, section 13. Next, on what value? Because people, somebody gives a free supply, somebody gives material and gets some work done, something is given on job work, etc. There are various complexities. So valuation, what is the exact value of that supply? Someone gives discount before supply happens, someone gives after supply happens. So that all apart, that valuation speaks on what GST has to be levied and paid to government. Input tax credit, 6 sections, section 16 to section 21. Input tax credit, as when you make a supply, you are charging GST to from people. In indirect tax, all burden is passed on to the ultimate customer. And likewise, when somebody is selling goods to you or providing services to you, he also charges you GST. Now, in that particular case, from the input side, whatever is the GST charged to you and you pay to that input service provider or the capital goods supplier or the goods supplier, that all GST is called input tax. Input tax is defined in section 2, clause 62. Okay. So when you reach section 16, you can refer what is input tax. Okay. Now section 17 speaks about block credit. GST as a concept is for seamless flow of credit, so that one person who is making a supply of goods or services to another, that person charges GST, the other person also charges GST. It takes a credit of whatever is on the input side. So, if I correlate to the old times, it's of a value addition. What then was said, a value added tax. So only on the value addition, there is a tax that is paid. So section 17, we were discussing, this basically is for block credit. On certain things, there is no credit that is permitted. Okay. Now section 20 is for input service distributor. Definition of input service distributor is given in section 2. Okay. Now, here you will see that once there is a levy, there is a time, there is a value, there is an input tax credit because people also charge you GST. Next comes, when should you get registered? Okay. Registration is important because there is a unique number given to you and that unique number tracks all your transactions. whether you pay GST, whether someone charges you GST. Okay. So that unique GST identification number, it's called GSTIN. Okay. That is what is available to an SSE when he takes registration. So those section 22 onwards it starts. Section 22 is when he has to get himself registered under GST. So these sections are not of everyday use, because once you get registered, you don't again get registered in your lifetime. But yes, there is also cancellation and suspension of GSTIN that is a part of this. And those are something which have to be dealt very carefully. This is a different provision which earlier was not there in many acts, but has been incorporated in GST Act. After that comes tax invoice, credit note, and debit note. See, we spoke, there is a supply. Then there is a time at which that supply happens. There is a value on which GST is attracted. Okay. But any transaction has to be ultimately recorded on a document. That document has to have a unique number, and that unique number of that document is identified as a synonym for that particular transaction. It can be, say, supply of a printer, it can be architect services, it could be a PMC, it could be even e-commerce related supply of goods. Now, tax invoices are those which are issued by the person who is making the supply. Okay. So these tax invoice again is defined in section 2, which is a definition section, but section 31 is the section which elaborately deals. Along with that, there is rule 46, which has all the contents of section of tax invoice. So tax invoices are the ones which, when issued, are a sort of, though not said anywhere, but I am speaking in general language, an acknowledgement that, sir, I have made this supply and I owe so much GST to government. Once you have issued a tax invoice, okay, with particular contents, it's only if the value of supply changes, then you can decline the amount of GST in that. That change happens by credit note or debit note. If the value reduces, suppose goods are faulty or there is a sale return, okay, then there can be a credit note issue. If the value increases, then there is a debit note. So this section 31 capital A to 34. Okay. These are 5 sections, but these are the ones which are the most procedurally complex sections. They have a close linkage into returns, which come into chapter 9. Okay. Because after there is a supply, after there is a levy that is determined, after there is also a value that is accepted by you, then there is a particular GST that has to be paid by you. Okay. Now comes the question of what is the accounts and records related chapter. Now, in the accounts and records, there are 2 sections, section 35 and section 36. So these speak about one thing is that what are the various accounts which are to be, various records which are to be maintained. These generally are the various registers which have to be maintained. Okay. And also the period of retention, that is the number of years, etc., for which these records have to be retained. Okay. So these are the first 8 chapters. Here we have discussed what is the supply, what is the time of supply, what is the value of supply, which particular sections speak about all this, what is input tax credit, what is a tax invoice, what is a credit note, debit note. These first 7 chapters, I will say, not even accounts and records, because accounts and record nowadays there are very good packages. Everything is maintained in electronic form. And as far as period of retention is concerned, it can be for 10 years, 15 years, whatever, as long as the package. So utna important nahi hai, accounts and records. But yes, for academic sake, it is there in GST Act. The next comes returns. Okay. In returns, the most important aspect is, one is a regular return And means it starts with section 37 as rightly written here. Section 37 is for outward supply. Section 39 is for monthly return. Now section 37 which deals with outward supply is the section which speaks of a particular return to be filed on a monthly basis, and which are the provisions that are applicable to that return. The return is defined in rules. Just for your information, I refer two books. One is How to Meet GST Obligations by S.S. Gupta, and secondly, GST Law and Procedure by C.A. Ashok Batra. These are good books. And third one is by Mr. V.S. Tate. So you can also refer these books as and when you have any question, doubt. But from these books, you can get everything. The point is how well we accept it, how well we digest it, how much we can apply to it in our day-to-day workings. Okay, we were at returns. So section 37 speaks about outward returns. Okay, these are the details which are furnished because whatever supplies you make, you have to provide these details to government. Now, generally in a tax law, there is only one return. In income tax, as you have an income tax return which is filed only once in a year. Okay. But that is not the case in GST. Okay. In GST, you have to file monthly return. That is given in section 39. Section 39 is for the monthly return. Section 37 is for the monthly outward details. Okay. So earlier there was also for inward detail. Now that has not been activated. Okay. Then there is also a separate return for input service distributor, which is a monthly return. And there is also an annual return. And that annual return is in section 44. And if the returns are delayed, then section 47 speaks about late fees. Returns are the most important documents because that is the first linkage of your communication with department. Returns are voluntary. Returns basically are you accept that these are the transactions I have done. On these all transactions, X rupees of liability of a tax arises on me. Next, you give in a return how have you paid that particular tax which you accept as your liability. And this all is a self-declaration. It is signed by you only. Your DSC can be attached. So return when filed, a liability when discharged, tomorrow cannot be disowned. It can be a absolutely correct return. It can be something deliberately missed by some people. So those things are part. But returns are the first link of communication. And it is the scrutiny of returns by the tax officials from where start that how these go with the books, whether the transactions recorded in books and the transactions reflected in returns are matching. If there is a mismatch, what has been left out by you. So returns are important, but often in an organization, these are not given that due importance. Next, in returns, there is annual return. Now it is made self-declaration, but earlier a practicing CA used to scrutinize all your records, and then there was a GSTR 9, which was annual return, and GSTR 9C, which was a reconciliation between your books and your return. As we spoke, in a return, there is a self-accepted liability, and how you are paid comes in chapter 10. Section 49 deals with that. And section 49 is about payment of interest penalty and tax. Yeah, rather I should say first tax, then interest penalty. Now tax can be paid by two modes. One is if you have input tax credit entitlement, then you can pay by utilizing input tax credit, or you can pay in cash. With this, one point which I will stress here is input tax credit, if it is allowed to discharge your GST liability, then it is cash. It is equivalent to cash, only the form is input tax credit. But input tax credit, there is a particular rule in which input tax credit utilization has to be there. You can have input tax credit as CGST, ITC, as SGST, ITC, as IGST, ITC. Because on your input side, you may have CGST and SGST as well as IGST, which you might have paid to your suppliers of goods and or input services. This has one very, very highly disputed section earlier. Now, with certain decisions of high courts and subsequently an amendment in GST Act, it is settled, that is section 50. It deals with interest. Okay. Now, interest in GST is very high. Interest on delay of payment is very high. And this interest earlier was even on wrong availment of credit. There is a 50 subsection 1, 50 subsection 2, 3, 3 subsection hai. These have a particular importance, but it is in this particular chapter, chapter 10, that section 50 falls. And that is this interest related we'll discuss subsequently with various case law and the nitty-gritties. Okay. Now, payment of taxes immediately follows with refunds. So this generally is a only if you have paid, you can claim a refund is one particular thing. But if it may not be paid to government, but in case of exports, if you have paid to input service providers, input goods suppliers, then also you can claim and so on. But refund related entire discussion is in 5 sections. Now here I will take a pause because see, refund is not everyday matter for real estate developers. Once it happens. Okay. But yes, in certain businesses, refund is very important where there is an inverted duty structure, where on the output side, there is no tax or it is very low tax, but on the input side, the taxes are very high. So in that case, yes, there is a provision of refund that is called inverted duty structure. These refund related provisions, section 54 is most important. It speaks about the timeline also, that is 2 years. Okay. Next, assessments. Assessments are a part of taxation. Means once you have filed all your returns, you are bound to face assessment by department, also audit, which is the next chapter. Okay. Assessments are not very long drawn, but audits, if you see, are certainly audits by GST department. You can consider it as certain that your records will certainly be audited, and these are the audits which, apart from government department, they can also have a special audit by a CA whom they appoint. But that also happens very rarely unless there is a big goof up in books of accounts, etc. Else there is no CA appointed for very clean records and a cooperative SAC. Inspection, search, seizure. This comes chapter 14. Now see how the flow went. There was a supply, there was a time at which supply happened, there was a levy attracted on the supply, on what value of supply, how that value was discharged by paying through ITC or by paying through cash. What were the provisions of ITC were in section 16 onwards. Okay. And then when you are making a transaction, which documents you will issue, that was tax invoice, credit note, debit note. Okay. Then how you will disclose all this was given in the returns related section. Okay. Then there is an audit. So that audit could happen by government department only, their officials. Now, if there is a case that for some SSE, they feel or they get an info, because there are also other SSEs who are disclosing their transactions, that you have not paid GST appropriately, you are not cooperative, they have their own intelligence, then there can be an inspection or a search or a seizure and also arrest. These are again exceptional activities in the life of an SSE. For some people who have a very good compliance history, who are very alert about compliances, these things never happen in their lifetime. But for some people, yes, this happens off and on. And when they happen in somebody's life, it's a very big activity. We will be discussing this if in future, along with case law. There are very interesting case laws in this. Also arrest, you might have read in newspapers, so many people arrested for various goof ups of ITC and refunds. Chapter 15 deals with demands and recoveries. See, not every GST audit results into search seizure. Okay, not every SSE faces search seizure. It's rare rather. Yes, but Section 73 deals with show cause notices issued when there is no fraud, evasion of tax, or there is any willful misstatement. But what is the timeline? If the department feels after scrutiny of your records that yes, there are certain uh, transactions on which you should have paid certain amount of tax that you have not paid, then a show cause notice is issued, that is under Section 73. If they feel it is deliberate, means there is a fraud intended, then that is Section 74. Section 74, the time limit available for department to issue after the financial year is over is slightly more. Subsequently, the most important, I'll first go to appeals. Now, a show cause notice comes. For show cause notice, you have to submit your own response. Okay, if you accept, well and good. If you don't accept what they are saying, then follows first step is adjudication. Okay, next step is after adjudication, there is an adjudication order which is issued. Okay. If adjudication order is acceptable to you, matter is over. If not, appeal starts. Again, that adjudication order, you will first apply for appeal. You will go in for an appeal. So the first authority is the appellate authority, which earlier we used to say Commissioner of Appeals. That is in Section 107. So Section 107 onwards start the appeal provision till Section 121. So it is also having, next is tribunal, third is High Court, next is Supreme Court. Along with this goes the various other rules which are linked to appeal. Like Section 107 will speak that you have to pay 10% of pre-deposit. Only then that appeal can be admitted. What is APL 01, APL 02, those forms that when you lodge an appeal, then department acknowledges an appeal as received. So those all are in the rules, but they are the ones which are linked to this particular chapter. Okay. Going back, see liability to pay in certain cases and advance rulings. First, liability to pay in certain cases. This appears only when, like it is a firm, the provisions are very specific to a specific situation. It is not again a everyday matter that these things arise. If there is a guardian, etc. So not very important for real estate. Advance ruling against, I will say that when a person feels that his transaction should be first informed to GST department, and on that, what are the tax implications? He himself wishes that department should tell him so that he will follow that. That is advance rulings. But we will come to advance rulings as an exception, because advance rulings of late, if you see even the Madras High Court decision of housing societies, which is the recent decision, an advance ruling has been overruled by Madras High Court. So high courts can overrule advance rulings. Advance rulings can guide for a situation, but they are not binding on high courts, or forget Supreme Court to kabhi bhi nahi hoga. Offenses and penalties, these are the ones. See, once you accept there is an evasion, okay, or once it is proved at the apex court that you have to pay a particular tax on a transaction, then interest under Section 50 that we spoke, and the penalties. Here Section 122 is the section which has generalized penalties. Okay, those all come into picture. Okay, penalties are hefty. One has to be very careful in litigations about the interest, about the penalties. Next, transitional provisions. These are specific when in 2017, June 17, we moved from old regime to new regime. But there are various litigations in this. Tran 1 was the form, and this is very important for those litigations which are going to continue. Next, I will speak about IGST Act. IGST Act is Integrated GST Act 2017, and very much important as per me. First and foremost is, again here there is a levy section, and this deals with interstate supply. Okay, Section 3 speaks about that. Then determination of nature of supply in Chapter 4. Section 7 is interstate, Section 18 intrastate. These are easy to understand. We will speak in due course of time. And actually, when you are going into the very first section that I spoke here about section 7, which is the scope of supply, at that time itself, one can go through even these sections which are for interstate. These go hand in hand. So while looking at GST Act, if GST Act applies for intrastate, what applies for interstate, that will appear into this IGST Act. For me, the most important is, as I see, Chapter 5, which is place of supply of goods, section 10 to section 14. Okay. Section 14, first speaking about that, speaks about a unique concept, online information database access and retrieval, OIDAR as it is called. Okay. OIDAR services now are very common because of these online games, because of various platforms on which movies are released, because the web series available on Amazon, Netflix, so on and so forth. Those all, there is a definition of OIDAR, online information database access and retrieval. Okay, because there is a database which is maintained by somebody somewhere in world. You are paying some amount for accessing that particular database. Okay. If the person has his GSTIN in India, well and good. If it does not have any GSTIN, then what is the chargeability? That is spoken here, but place of supply is determined here. Next, about 10 is for goods, about 12, etc. is for services. Now see, those who have worked in service tax regime, they will recollect there were a place of provision of service rules. Okay, so those place of provision of services rules are the ones which you will find very close resemblance in section 12 of this IGST Act. Okay. So anybody who has that service tax background is very comfortable in this place of supply of services at least. And as for goods, he can easily grasp this. This is very important because the intrastate, interstate, that all is determined based on place of supply, where the supply happens. Chapter 6, it's something unique, refund of IGST to international tourists, not useful for real estate. But if some international tourist comes here, comes to India, he spends something, he pays, then he can get a refund. Not of daily use. Then chapter 7 speaks about zero dated supply, very important for SEZ business. Okay. Section 16, this we will be discussing in depth subsequently. Okay. So with all this, I will, one aspect in the transitional provision, which I have missed. In transitional provision, apart from all these provisions of how much service tax related credit you can carry forward, what if the payment has not been done, etc. Those all are there. There is one mega section, section 171, which is anti-profiteering measures. And that section today is facing a huge litigation. There is a backlash from developers. Hindustan Unilever has also faced NAA action, National Anti-Profiteering Authority action. Okay. So section 171 also falls under transitional provisions. Okay. That we will wait. There are various, Delhi High Court is dealing with various writ petitions. So I hope that should come very soon. Means all the writ petitions which are challenging 171 are clubbed there. That is anti-profiteering measure related. So this briefly and in a very fast manner is the correlation of the act and how means I can say that as a batsman comes to bat, he should see fielding lagi kidhar hai. So in CGST Act and IGST Act, you should know exactly where what is placed. Rules right away I can't discuss because then it becomes a massive discussion. But once you get to know the act related provisions, you can quickly refer the rules. It becomes a habit that when something is specified in act, you quickly correlate क्या अच्छा ये करने का है तो कौन सा फॉर्म भरने का है, अच्छा वो नेट पे है क्या, फिर वो पोर्टल पे भरा तो उसका एक्नॉलेजमेंट है. That is also very important, but it is a procedural part. Concepts are all in act, but we will be also discussing rules as and when time permits. This much for today. In the subsequent parts, I intend to start with CGST Act and Section 7. Intention is for a very detailed analysis and more focused on real estate. There can be some references to other businesses also, but real estate itself is too vast. But I would like to certainly touch on various other businesses, and I will also like to harp on various case laws, because case laws give an idea about interpretation, how the judiciary looks at it, and that is something which is very important. Thank you very much. And this is a new YouTube channel, and I request you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be uploading videos at least once in a week. That is my intention, or it could even be more. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.